Hey everybody, this is Angela Bluegrass Bound, and I was invited to participate in a collaboration involving preppers versus homesteaders, which I'm really excited about and really grateful that I was invited. So it's kind of a cool, fun, exciting thing to do. Basically what it is several YouTubers are going to talk about what they think homesteading and prepping means to them, and which is better. And so as it goes on, what's going to happen is each person is going to ask the next person a couple questions. So I was given a couple questions to answer, and then I'll move it on to the next person. Now I'm actually the last person on the chain. So instead of asking questions, it's going to go back to Go for Green Living, and they are going to kind of summarize what we all talked about. So it's kind of a cool little thing. I'm going to list below all the people involved so you can easily check it out. Plus I have a playlist that you can click on to just go straight through it. Super simple. So it's kind of a fun thing. So my first couple questions, I brought my paper out here on my walk, and the reason I'm doing a walk is because Cecil and his boy Noah are working on something, and they're using a grinder and a generator, so it's super loud up by the house. But anyway, so let's see, who was it? So my homesteading project, Tina and Eric at my homesteading project asked me, what made you decide to go off-grid and start homesteading? So there's never one simple answer to a question. There's a lot of different things that kind of led us to this. And I answered a very similar question with Dirt Patch Heaven on Braves Girls that will actually be airing next Friday. But the simple answer is, well, there's no simple answer. So the answer is, what is the answer? There's so many different things that led to this. So, a lot of people who homestead or prep, for that matter, are concerned about the food we eat. They're concerned about the water we drink. We're concerned about, the state of the political situation right now. There's so many things that are concerning, and that is true for me. That's part of what led me here, but it's not the whole story. It's not really the meat of it. For me, the moving out here to Kentucky had more to do with how I felt, both physically and emotionally and mentally. Overall, I was feeling like I wasn't feeling well. I had a desk job primarily, so I was feeling older than my age. I had back pain. I was gaining weight. I had chronic headaches that I started getting in like middle school and has just progressively gotten worse. It got to the point where it was unusual for me to not have a headache. And I got good at putting a smile on my face and getting through, but I was usually in some pain of some sort. So so there was health issues, and then come on. So there's that, and then emotionally I was feeling kind of stuck. I felt like I was just on this like a wheel, like I'm like a mouse on a wheel or a hamster on a wheel, whatever. And I felt like a hamster on a wheel. I went to work, I came home. I went to work, I came home, and I wasn't feeling like I was growing as a person, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I just felt kind of stuck. And what else? I guess I had these feelings of claustrophobia. There's just people all around you all the time. And I wasn't unhappy, but I wasn't happy. And I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. I just felt kind of just there. And I knew I needed to make some changes, but I didn't know what those changes should be. I just knew that what I was doing wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't, and that's not fair. I love my family, and I really enjoyed the work I did. I did work that I felt was meaningful, but it wasn't enough. There was something just missing for me. So, oh, it's really hot. anyway, so that's kind of where I was at. And oops, there. So that's kind of just emotionally and mentally where I was at. I mean, obviously there's, you know, the parts about just that I agree totally with everybody else on as far as the environment of the world right now. But then there's also where I was at emotionally and mentally. So anyway, we really never planned on, let's see, where do I want to go next with this? So that's where I was at. But we weren't really planning on moving out to Kentucky when we did. It wasn't, we talked about it a lot. We talked a lot about moving out here because he's already had this property. It's something that he had a dream of doing a long time ago, but just never, there was never a right time to do it. And so he bought the property and he got it paid off, but he never moved out. He never actually moved out here and stayed out here. So we talked about it and we talked about it and we talked about it, and we had all these ideas of how much fun it would be to, you know, live a sustainable life out in Kentucky and on our property. But it was a lot of dreaming and planning and just partial planning. A lot of YouTube watching and think, wouldn't that be nice? One day when we retire, you know, we're going to move to Kentucky. That was kind of how the conversation went. And so what happened was we ended up having to come out to Ohio for a funeral. And when we were heading out, on the way back from the funeral, we decided to just take a detour and head to Kentucky and check out the property, because I'd never seen the property. So when we did that, we were probably on the property, I don't know, maybe an hour, maybe, but I fell in love. It's just a beautiful, beautiful place. While we were visiting, I mean, I heard a buck, you know, and I saw little hooves in the dirt, and there was a turkey, and I could see where raccoons had been, and it was just beautiful and amazing. Let's see if that's, so it was just one of those things that I just fell in love. So the whole way back, all we talked about was wanting to move out here. Ooh. Let's see, I'm gonna have to switch. Sorry guys. So the whole way back to Idaho, all we did was talk about moving to Kentucky. And when we got back home, when I got back to Idaho, I talked to, you know, we talked some more about it. We talked to family, and I gave notice. And we got rid of a whole bunch of stuff and packed up the truck and the car and drove out to Kentucky and pitched a couple tents, and the rest is history. So that's how we got out here. I guess that's kind of a long way of talking about how we got out here, but as far as being off grid, that's a little bit different. That wasn't something we'd determined we were for sure going to do. That wasn't something, I mean, we fully expected to, when we first started talking about coming to Kentucky, we fully expected to get on grid. We were going to do the traditional, get on the grid, build a house type of a thing. That was kind of our plan. Oops, sorry, I've got my piece of paper I make noise with. That was the plan we were going to do every time we talked about retiring. I mean, I had these, you know, romantic ideas of being off grid, but I didn't really actually think we were going to do it. But right before we moved out to Kentucky, about the same time that, you know, basically I gave notice and we were moving, I got I think it was a power bill. I can't remember if it was a power bill or a water bill, but it was a bill, and it was like at least three times more than what I was used to paying. And it was clearly something was wrong because we hadn't even been home. So we hadn't even used anything, but it was ridiculously high. And there was no way for me to prove it. I had no power. I had no control over the situation. And we were in the process of moving. I could have probably fought it, but I probably would have lost because there was no way to prove that we didn't use that power. And I'm and I'm not blaming like anybody. There was probably something, because we were renting at the time, it's maybe something wrong with the rental, or maybe there's something wrong with whatever they were looking at. I don't know. But regardless, I had no power. I had no control over my own financial situation. And it was kind of like the straw. You know, it was a straw that broke the back, and that was it for me. And I'm kind of the one who was pushing for the off-grid thing because I was mad. I was mad, and I didn't want that to ever happen to me again. I didn't want to ever have that feeling again. And that's why we're off-grid, because I got mad. And you know, I'm not saying we're never going to get back on the grid, because I don't like to ever say never, because if you do, that's usually what ends up happening to you. But that's what happened. So that's why we're off grid. We're off grid because Angela got mad, and Cecil was just supporting me in that situation. Plus, really, when we got out here, it made sense. I mean, we're intense, and then we were like, you know what? So instead of getting on grid, instead of doing that, we started building up our solar, and it's kind of fun, and we like doing it. So, it's cool to learn about. It's, you know, so that's why. So, and let's see. So I hope that answered that question. Why did we? Next question. I brought this paper out on the walk with me. Let's see, what was the next question? What are your 3 top priorities to have you, let's see. What are your 3 top priorities to have you be more prepared and self-sustaining and prepared? Let's see. Okay. 3 top priorities. So what are your 3 top priorities to have you be more prepared and self-sustaining? Easy, easy, easy ones. Because obviously, you know, we came out here with, this was completely unimproved. It had been sitting, you know, Cecil bought it, 15 years ago, 16 years ago. I don't know, 15 or 16 years, but Cecil bought it about like 15 or 16 years ago. And, you know, he'd been out here a couple times, and he had done some work on it and cleaned things up a couple times, but it doesn't take long for things to get overgrown. I mean, it's almost 39 acres. So when we moved out here, nothing had been built on. There is a power pole on the property that was there, but we haven't hooked up to it. But other than that, there's nothing. And so when we moved here, our first priorities were clearing some land, like basically mowing down grass, cutting limbs, being able to get in and out of a muddy driveway. You know, those were the priorities. Now the priorities are water. We have a spring on our property, but we need to improve it. I don't mind going down and hauling water back and forth. Most of the time I don't mind. Sometimes I do. Sometimes it just is not what I want to do during my day. So having a better water system is number 1. That'll make life tremendously better. It's going to make it easier to do laundry. It's going to make it easier to take care of the garden. It's going to make it easier to take care of our puppies. It's going to make it easier for us to eventually get livestock. So all that right there is critical. If we get nothing else done in the next year, we have to get the water done. That's huge. Second thing. What's the second thing? Oh, improving the garden. That's big. This year, the garden is just pathetic. Things are not growing very well. I mean, I've got some things in the ground, but I'm not even going to go into it. It'll be a really long video if I do. But basically, this gardening year has not been good. So, you know, we might get some tomatoes, maybe a couple cucumbers. Actually, the watermelon are doing good. And I think my pumpkins might be okay. But things just, you know, not a good garden. Not a homesteading garden. Not even as good as my very first garden. I mean, my first garden was amazing. It did great. This garden stinks. It's embarrassing. But anyway, so we need to improve the soil. That's huge. Third thing, infrastructure. So we need fencing, and we need outbuildings. We need a place to store things, and we need shelter for animals. So I don't even we have our puppies, and we want other animals, but I don't even want to start with animals until I can take care of them properly. And you need fencing, and you need buildings of some sort, shelters of some sort, places to store stuff of something. And so that's where we're at. We're at the very beginning. So I hope that answered those questions. Finally, what basically preppers versus homesteaders, my thoughts on that. So I think of preppers as, you know, the name says it, is people who are prepared, but primarily they're prepared for like a crisis situation. It's not much unlike when, you know, we were at school and we had fire drills. You practiced, and you prepared. It's just the same thing but on steroids, you know, bigger. You practice other things, you stock things up, you make sure that you have yourself situated for an emergency situation. Nothing wrong with that. I think that's amazing. I think people should do that. I think that I should be doing that. I think homesteaders should be doing that. And I think homesteaders do that to a point. This collaboration has actually got me thinking that I need to do more of that. So, so that's, in my mind, that's what preppers are. You know, practicing skills for emergency situations, stocking up for emergency situations. That's a prepper. Let's see. Somebody also brought up, what was the other one? Okay, so then homesteaders. Homesteaders, they're not too far away from preppers. They're preparing themselves to be self-sufficient, you know, and it's a lifestyle. They're preparing their homes and their skills to be self-sufficient. So homesteaders have a lot of similar ideas as preppers. They want to, you know, be able to take care of themselves and their families, and they want to do it in a way that's long-term, that's sustainable, that involves building up skills and building up their property so that they can do things long-term over and over again. So instead of storing up a bunch of food, they learn how to grow their own food and store it. So it's kind of it's a progression. It's kind of the next step. You know, it's a little bit more. And homesteaders also do things like they learn how to hunt, and they learn how to forage, and they do all the things that a lot of preppers, or what's the next, bushcrafting, sorry. So there's also the bushcrafters who learn how to so there's bushcrafters who learn how to, you know, survive in the wild, and that involves hunting and fishing and building shelters and knowing your plants and foraging for food. So it's just another type of being prepared for life. And I think homesteaders kind of take a little bit of both the prepping and the bushcrafting and take it to, and then add it on to the idea of learning other skills and preparing having your life just include all of that in one. You're preparing your own food, you are storing your own food, you're learning, you hunt, you forage, you learn how to take care of animals, and it becomes a daily lifestyle versus preparing for the what if. You're already just living it. And so I think, you know, there's no right or wrong at all, and I think other people have already said this, there's no right or wrong. It's all where you're at. I'm not there. Honestly, I don't know if anybody's there. It's a journey, and we're learning, and there's things that I can learn from preppers and bushcrafters and other homesteaders, and that's where I'm at with it. So anyway, so that was my part of the challenge. So next step of, not challenge, that was my part of the collaboration. The next step of the collaboration is to please now go to tomorrow. So tomorrow, Go for Green Living will be posting a final video for this collaboration. They will be summarizing just this whole experience and finalizing it. So please, tomorrow, tune in to Go for Green Living. Tune in to Go for Green Living tomorrow, and they'll finalize everything. All right, thanks so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Remember that the links for all the people involved will be down below. And I'll also have a playlist with all the channels that were involved. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks.